This is a Jmix exclusive.
Do you think that Tupac was getting involved with the gang side of Death Row?
I don't think so. Because Pac was his own man. It was like he could hang around the biggest, like I hung around some of the biggest drug dealers in Oakland. He could hang around the biggest drug dealers and still be his own man. So he hung around them, the music business, they was, when something went down, he was there. Of course, he gonna jump in. But Pac was never into the gang thing. And the thing was, when he first got with Death Row, me and Dion, Big D, Dion Evans, we went down there, to try to do some more songs. And Pac was like, I can't do it, y'all. So it's a Death Row thing, So he was down for the label, not really for the gang per se. But even though the biggest gang banger was the head of the label, Suge Knight. But he was more, there for the camaraderie of the crew itself, and the gang was just a part of it.
Are you saying that Tupac was shying away from the people he used to work with after signing to Death Row?
Yeah, he did.
Do you think that was because of Suge's influence or just because he was doing his own thing at Death Row?
I think it has something to do with Suge. Because even Shock G was like, he cool. He didn't want to remember that bunch. He couldn't do it. Because I was like, Shock G didn't even want to, try to get on any songs with Pac when he got to Death Row, which I thought was a trip. Because if it wouldn't have been for, Shock G, it wouldn't have been Tupac at Death Row.
Tupac turned down working with Shock G too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mike, do you think because of Suge Knight's stature that perhaps Tupac felt empowered or emboldened by Suge Knight?
Most definitely. Yeah, definitely. That definitely helped fuel. It's nothing like knowing that you got an army behind you. You're going to really take it you're going to take it there. You know what I mean? If I don't have to worry about building an army myself and this person already has an army with him, you know what I mean? It's no stopping you. You just feel like the United States and Russia at that point, There's nothing you can't do, nobody you can't touch. It's almost like being in the mob or the mafia or something, you got soldiers, who's going to stand in your way. You want to crush everybody at that point if you have something to get off your chest like that.
You knew Tupac prior to Death Row. When you recorded with Tupac on Death Row, did you see any changes in Pac? Was it the same old Pac?
Man, Pac was the same old Pac, but it was something that was bugging the shit out of him, man. When we ran into Pac, me, Spice One, my boy Caffeine, after we did this record, You Got the Game Twisted Up at Ice-T's spot. We was at the Majamiana and ran into Pac, and I ain't seen Pac in a minute. And this was I guess this was like 6, 7 months before somebody killed him. And, he was like, "What up, Spice? What up, Cole?" His Pac was always, that's like a homie. You know what I'm saying? He was like, "Man, I've been looking for you, Cole. I got something I need you to do. You know what I'm saying? I got a song called Fortune and Fame, but I want you to go ahead and help me write the shit I got with the Outlaws and all that stuff." So we drove to his house, you know what I'm saying, in the valley. And, he was on the phone at that time arguing with Quincy Jones' daughter. I know I'm telling too much, but that was at that time. And the dude had a lot on his mind because I was on the piano at his house singing a song that I had on my album, 1994, Funk Upon a Rhyme, and it was a song called Sometimes I Feel Like My Day Is Coming, Won't You Free My Mind, Free My Mind, Free My Mind, yeah, 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 yeah. And he was like, wow, man, that song, he was just looking in the days, dog, because he always liked that song. I remember in 94, he was like, man, I love that song, No Pain, No Gain, and songs that touched him in a way to where he knew that he was going to die, man.
You know, there would be a lot of times that I would be in a session and it would be surreal and everything seemed like it would slow down. You know, like almost like if you're like a fly on the wall type thing. Like you're there, but you're not, and you're seeing it from like a different perspective. It was really weird, and there was so many cases like that there that you're just like, you're calm, everything is chill, but there's fucking chaos around you. There's, you know, people yelling at each other in this corner, and there's fucking other people, you know, yelling over there, and, you know, people laughing and partying and all that type of shit, and you're just numb, and you're just like watching, and it's, yeah, those are like some weird feelings, and I got that a lot, you know, working, you know, with Pac and stuff, because, you know, those were crazy sessions. Those were, you know, basically just sessions of excess. You know, it was definitely one of those things. You know, it was so fast paced. There was only two outcomes of it, and it was either, you know, get burned out and calm down, which I thought that's what was going to happen. I mean, honestly, I thought that's what was going to happen, because he was so smart, and he was a very rational person in one sense, and then there was like a whole other side of him that seemed like he was trying to live up to what death row represented at the time, and it was like the thug lifestyle. But then there's that whole other part of him that was, you know, helping people out, and, you know, very respectful, like he was brought up, you know, right, but there always seemed to be like an inner struggle with him.
I think the last time I seen Pac was when he got into it with Puffy and Biggie at I think it was a Soul Train Awards. He got into it with him. That was in the back. Yeah, that was the last time I seen him. Yeah, that was the last time, because I was in the audience with my homeboy Big John and Jody Gerson, and we were just sitting there, and Pac ran up the aisle and stopped and seen me and gave me a hug. I'm like, "What's up, Mike? How you doing, man? You know, I'm in some funk right now. I'm gonna hit you up a little. I'll talk to you a little later, man. You all right? You cool? You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm cool. All right." So he ran in the back. Him and Suge ran in the back. It was crazy.
Now, tragically, the last time you spoke to Pac was on September 6th. How did that day start out for you, and can you share the memories of that conversation?
I mean, the day started out cool. I was in the office. I had just gotten, you know, the proofs back from the Machiavelli album artwork, which is the front and the back cover. I got a call from Roy Tespard. Roy, you know, he was Suge's personal assistant. He worked in the front office. He told me to take the album art down to Tupac, which Tupac had, and he had a penthouse off of Wilshire Boulevard in a place called the Wilshire House. So Roy sent me down there to take him the artwork so he can approve of it. My friend Janella, she worked in the back office with me. She used to dance with MC Hammer, you know, a year prior. She was still doing things with Hammer, but me and her became good friends because we used to share a space. So she drove me down to meet up with Pac. So when I took everything to him, I showed Pac. He approved of the album cover. He liked the artwork. And at that time, he wanted me to start painting pictures for his home because Death Row was about to give me an art show. I was about to be the first visual artist off the label, and they were setting up to give me an art show. Pac was going to host it. So he was telling me that day, like, yo, I'm going to host this art show for you. You know, once you get everything, we get everything together when we get back from Vegas. Like, you know, he told me that, you know, the walls were naked in his pad. He needed something on them, so start painting pictures, and he was going to start putting them around. He was basically like giving me the go-ahead, telling me he was basically going to endorse me. But, you know, that next day he ended up getting shot, and, you know, things didn't happen the way, you know, that they were meant to happen.
I do have to ask, was he in good spirits? Because there's a flip side of the coin. Some people say he was unhappy. Some people say that he was completely happy. In your experience, and I know you can't judge the man's feelings, but outwardly, was he in good spirits that day?
I mean, that day he was in good spirits. He was excited, especially when I gave him the album artwork. He was really excited, and he was really pumped up for me to, you know, do stuff around his house. You know, a lot of people will probably think, oh, it's just his story. It's just something he want to say to make himself. But no, he was really pumped up that day. He was telling me, like, yo, you gotta, you know, start doing this, start doing that. Like, he was in real good spirits that day. Like, it was enough to have me excited. So can't wait to get back from Vegas to get started.
Do you think Tupac was unhappy at death row?
At a certain point, yes.
Towards the end of his life?
I'll say, yeah, towards the end of, I'll say the Machiavelli thing, and I'm going to tell you why I think he was unhappy. Because during the making of Machiavelli, myself and the Pro Tools editor who was working with us, because it was myself, Tommy, and a Pro Tools editor. And myself and the Pro Tools editor, we was at the studio here in Burbank, and the studio is really was really a post-production studio, not necessarily dealing with music, but television. And so we're there, and you know, I'm cool mixing on Oratones or NS10s. But Tupac shows up for, I think he was doing, if it's not Gridlock, he was doing some other movie. And he walks in, he says, Lance, let me hear it. It was him and Edie. And so I push play, and he says, put it on the big boys, because at Can-Am, at Track Record or whatever, that's what we did. We put them on the big subs, and oh my gosh, everybody's heart fell to the floor. You could feel the bass kicking you in the stomach, chest, all that. And all the studio had was let's say like a 12-inch little woofer. And Tupac looked at me and said, man, is that how my shit gonna sound? And I'm like, nah, man. Because he's ready to kick a hole in the wall. I told the guy, nah, man, this is a post-production facility. Look, they kicked us out of Can-Am, 6 o'clock this morning. This is the best that Kevin Lewis could do for us. Okay, I said, but, you know, your music is not going to sound like that. He picks up the phone. He calls the office, Death Row. And these were some of the words, not word for words, that came out his mouth. He said Snoop was corny. He was taking too much time doing a record. He'd take all day doing one song. He says, I'm paying Nate Dogg's child support. Rage. Y'all kick my engineers out the studio so that Rage can continue working on a record that she's been working on for 2 years. That's pretty fucked up. Okay? And at that point, that's when I knew, oh, wow, this guy is not happy. And so when you know, the question is, do you think he was happy? Well, I think he wasn't that happy because he stated that I am paying for this. Why are my engineers having to suffer? Why are you guys kicking them out the studio when my record is on is the number one record on Billboard? Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where that question comes in. Was he really happy? I don't know. I do know whether he was happy or not, he was making moves, and you saw the signs. He was making moves to start doing his own thing. You know, he would always have his girlfriend at the time, Dada, who was Quincy Jones's daughter. She would be there, and her promotional people, and they'd always be chopping it up and doing, I guess, talking about branding business or whatever. But he was definitely making his move towards doing his own stuff, handling his, making his own records, putting out his own artists, because somewhere along the line, like I said, stuff was being revealed. He started learning the truth about whatever the situation was around there. And, the guy was going to leave and go about his way. I don't know if he would have left furious or if he would have left saying, okay, everything is good, hugs, let's chop it up a little later. I got to go do my own thing. You continue doing yours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's how the situation was, because that's not how it turned out,
Yeah.
Destiny is destiny.
You personally worked on that Tyson song, Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the last song Tupac ever recorded?
Yeah, that was the last song that we had done with him, which was a really strange day because it started out with us in this cheap studio that was for orchestral, and Lance calls me, you better get the studio, Tupac's foaming at the mouth. I'm like, what? He goes, so I'm taking my air conditioner back. He's, fuck your air conditioner, man. Tupac's pissed, man. He's foaming at the mouth. He just went outside. He's screaming at everybody. I said, what are you talking about? So I get up to the studio. He goes, man, look at it. So I get up there. Tupac had kicked the speakers out of the subwoofers because you couldn't even have low end in there. It was just really, he was all very, very upset. Lance said he'd called Suge, want to know why he wasn't at Can-Am, why he was sent to this shitty studio, and why other artists were having the studio that hadn't even put albums yet out, that were taking a long period of time. Tupac wasn't probably aware that that Suge was stockpiling these albums to give to Sony. So we went over to Track Records. So we shifted over there. So it was this big thing. Suge came with all security, and we call that day the Last Supper because they ordered food for like 50 people, all this barbecue and everything. Tupac did the Tyson song. He listened to the Machiavelli song, and everybody took off, and it was just me and Lance with all this food for like 50 people. And for 3 days, we just ate all this barbecue and stuff. But Lance is the one that came up with the title, the Last Supper, for that evening. And that was the last time we saw Tupac.
And it was a trip. So we started mixing it up. Me and Spice One did the song with him, and we started hanging. You know what I'm saying? He would invite us down to the movie set that him and Jim Belushi was doing. I'm like, damn, I get to meet Jim Belushi. Pac, my nigga, you doing your thing. You know, he was cracking. That was Pac. And Pac said, look, I'm about to go out here to New York. And then after this situation or somewhere, you know what I mean, I go to Vegas. I want y'all to come with me. So me and Spice One was actually supposed to be rolling with Pac. You know what I'm saying, to that Vegas thing, but never did. And Snoop was supposed to go too, but he never did. And that was the last time I seen Pac. I talked to him 3 days before he got killed.
Where were you when you heard that Pac died?
I was at Track Recording Studio with Daz Dillinger, and we was invited to Vegas. I told Daz, let's go. Tupac asked me to go.
Tupac asked you to go to Vegas?
Yeah. He told me to come. I was like chilling with him like 3 days before, like, and he was like, "Badass, you should come to Vegas. I'm performing this weekend. You should come rock with us." And I was like, "I'm staying at Daz's house, so I gotta really, really like see what's up with him because I was younger at the time and I wasn't really like having my own house and all that shit. So I was like chilling at Daz's house, and besides that, I stayed at my mom's, and I was like, hey, like, if I don't roll with Daz, I'm going to have to go to my mom's, so I don't really want to do that. I'm trying to thug it out and see what Daz's going to do. And Pac was like, he was like, tell Daz to roll. So this is a really significant part of this situation because I've told this story in several interviews, and I've talked about it a lot of times with my friends, and it was really crazy because I went into the next room while Pac was in the next room, and I went and asked Daz because me and Daz had came to the studio together. We was in the next studio having a session. Pac and a couple of the Outlaws was in the other session. So when I went over there to say what's up to Tupac, and he invited me to the show that weekend, I said, hold on, let me go see if Daz want to go. So I went in there all pumped up, and I was like, hey, Daz, Pac just invited me to the show this weekend. We should go. They performing at Suge's Club in Vegas. Daz was like, no, I'm not going to that shit. You want to roll with them? And, we didn't have beef with the blood part of Death Row, but if you know anything about Death Row, it was made up of a lot of Bloods and a lot of Crips. Suge had most of the Bloods, which was his homies and friends, and that, we had a couple of rap groups. DJ Quick rolled with us. OFTB was Bloods. It was a couple of Bloods, and the rest of us and our homies is mostly Crips. So Daz was like, you going, it's going to be all the Bloods there, and blah, 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 and none of the homies are going to be there. And I was like, dang, I didn't really think of it like that. I don't really feel uncomfortable, but now that you're saying like that, he's like, Snoop ain't going. Like, why would you want to roll? Why we don't roll like that? You roll with Death Row when the homies roll. And I was like, you right. So I ran back over there and I told Pac, like, Pac, I probably ain't gonna be able to roll. And he was like, that's what's up. He was like, well, I'll catch you, when I come back and blah blah blah. And we chopped it up, and that was the last time I ever talked to him. Like after when he got ready to leave, like we said our goodbyes, and that was the last time I ever seen him or talked to him in life.
Let me tell you how the whole day went. The whole day was a crazy day. We all started out at Suge's house in Compton. We all met up there, so like that. Heard him back. Me and Heard him back. We got there about the same time. Me, Heard him back, Danny Boy, and when Pac showed up, he showed Heard him back like crazy love. Like he kept saying Machiavelli Records in the house. This was my first time hearing Machiavelli Records. But he was like really promoting Machiavelli Records. So on our way to, we all got together, which was mainly the Blood side. It was mainly the mob. So we were going to Vegas. I noticed that Pac was listening to Nas, because I don't know, anybody that knows about the trip from California to Vegas. There's this open 20-mile stretch of road straight ahead, just desert, just a straightaway. You know what I mean? And we were kind of like getting ready to do this little race, like we're going to get there first. And I remember Castro was with us, and he rolled down the window to ask Pac something. When he rolled down the window, I noticed Pac was listening to Nas. And we were riding pretty much side by side with Pac to Vegas. Kadada was driving, and he was just studying Nas's CD, which kind of goes into the thing that Pac really, had peace with Nas. And that was an example that was true, because he was studying him. He had met up with Nas in New York, and they made peace. So Saturday, he was definitely checking out his material. But on the way, it was kind of like there was some tension at the gas station that I noticed, that Pac was like upset with some fans that it was like either said something to him or wanted to take some pictures or something. But it was just like a weird tension. I'd never seen Pac get that animated and that mad. That's what I was talking about. Like there were times when he was like out of control. and we had to calm him down.
Who was he getting mad at? What exactly were they doing?
Yeah, it was like some school kids. Actually, it was like they were on a school bus. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like, what the fuck did somebody say to him that pissed him off to that point? You know what I mean? I must have said something about I like Biggie or something. I don't know what the fuck they must have said. But I mean, like, he was furious. And that's what I mean. Like, there was this power thing. You know, you start to notice it. You know what I mean? Like, it can get to your head. You start becoming somebody other than yourself. Compared to the Pac that I met just getting out of prison, was real humble, you know, low-key, soft-spoken dude. And I've seen him do a lot of nice stuff for people. But like I said, we were on the road to Vegas. It's this straightaway that's like, seemed like it's like 20 miles just straight ahead. So everybody decided, like, fuck it, who's gonna get there first? Everybody just started hitting. We started doing 100 and 100 whatever. You know what I mean? Depending on what kind of car you was in, you was doing 150, 160. And out of nowhere, we hit this patch of rain, which was crazy as hell. Like, it was this weird shit happening all day. We hit this patch of rain, and everybody was kind of like losing control of the cars, and, you know, everybody got it together, and then everybody looked around, you know, check and see if everybody was okay and everybody cool. Then we just, you know, head to Vegas. Nobody noticed that Damon Thomas was missing, but he was in a Lamborghini, so everybody figured like he was gone. But Damon had flipped his fucking Lamborghini, and we found out once we were in Vegas that this dude was in the hospital fucked up. But somebody had to go get the DAT tape for the fight, to play for the Mike Tyson fight. We get to Vegas. Damon Thomas had crashed back on the straightaway, and he had the DAT tape with for the fight thing. That's how we found out that he had crashed out somewhere. He flipped the Lamborghini. At the hotel, you know, we all getting ready. Pac is his normal self. The last time I actually seen Pac alive was once we got to the hotel, we went to the Luxor, and he was animated about changing clothes or something, and like, he jumped in a cab and took off and went somewhere. I don't know where the hell he went, but you know, I was tripping off that. I was like, damn, this dude's a mega star. He didn't jump in a limo. He jumped in a cab. You know what I mean? But he was that type of dude. Like, he was still himself a lot, you know, like, the way he dressed, like, he carried a pocket full of everything in his pocket. Like, his pocket would be, like, packed with plenty shit.
Were you not able to make the fight that night?
No, when we missed the fight, didn't really care about going to the fight, was really more interested in going to the club, because that was going to be a big thing at the club that night. So we were like, you know, fuck the fight, getting dressed. We was running late. It was like, we said with everybody at the club. And once we got to the club, security came and told me, Danny Boy, and somebody else that was with us that Suge and Pac got shot. Keep it quiet, you know, like, don't let everybody know. So, shit, we found out where they were at. We headed straight to the hospital. We couldn't go see Pac because he was being operated on, but we went straight up to Suge's room, and he was, like, laying in the hospital bed. He had, like, his head bandaged up. You know, he was real, like, down, like deep in his thoughts, you know what I'm saying? He just kept saying, man, I think Pac is fucked up, Pac fucked up. But then at the same time, he tried to be, you know, everybody was getting, like, this weary, super depressed looks on their face and this attitude, and he tried to cheer everybody up. So, you know, she'll try to brighten up the night, but it, you know, it couldn't be brightened up from that point. And, you know, I was at the hospital, like, every day up until Wednesday with Afeni, and I remember the doctors coming telling Afeni that they were going to put him in a medically induced coma. And I figured that everything would be cool after that, because they said the problem was he kept fighting to I don't know, just the doctor, he kept fighting to wake up or come out of, I don't know what the situation was, but they said they had to keep him calm, you know, to allow his body, you know, time or whatever it needed to, and plus whatever they were doing, they needed to keep it at a certain pace.
How was the atmosphere at the hospital?
Oh, the atmosphere was crazy, because we actually, one of the reasons we were there is because there was death threats. there was people calling to the hospital like, we didn't finish the job, and we know what room he's in. So a lot of us would just stay up at the hospital like we were standing like guard. You know what I'm saying? Like we knew where his room was, so a lot of us was standing outside the room so nobody can drive by and shoot into the room. So it was that atmosphere. It was crazy, man. It was like people trying to sneak past us. We'll be sitting talking with each other, and we'll know somebody with a microphone. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to chase reporters away. It was wild. It was an unreal experience.
Did you see Tupac in the hospital room?
No, I don't like seeing people like that. You know, Danny Boy went in there and sung his favorite song to him, which was A Change Is Gonna Come. And he told me, he was like, man, it was crazy. Like, you wouldn't even want to see him. You wouldn't even recognize him because they said, like, his head was, like, swole up like a pumpkin. Like, you didn't even know it was him. He was so out of shape looking. And shit, I didn't want to see nothing like that. I don't like, hospital situations like that anyway.
Danny, how did you find out that Pac had passed away?
Oh, man, I was just left the hospital that morning. I was in my hotel at the Luxor Hotel. And I had been there all night. And I had overslept. I think Pac had been dead about an hour or two. And the security, bammed on my door till I opened it. And one of the guys ran in hollering, Pac gone, Pac gone. And when I went to the hospital, it was thousands and thousands of people outside with pictures up and, people laying in the street crying. And it was just very catastrophic, man. I really didn't think that Pac was going to pass because he was such a strong dude, and over the days it seemed as if he was getting better. So, it took me by a big surprise.
It's been a long time. Did his passing affect you in a negative way?
Did I see his passing affect me?
Well, all these years later, is there a silver lining to his passing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I could say, I guess my musical career could have went a little further, probably, because Pac really believed in me as well. And he always appreciated my singing. I just really think that between that, it kind of put Death Row, and the Death Row kind of went downhill a little bit after Pac's death, because Pac meant a lot to a lot of people that were signed to Death Row. And he brought a great spirit to the label as well.
Where were you when you had initially heard that he had been shot?
I was actually at the club 662, and a guy came in and said Pac and Suge was just murdered.
What was your reaction?
Oh, man, I went running out of the club and jumped in my truck and tried to find out where they were, and went straight up to the hospital.
I spoke to Kurt Cobain recently, who spoke very, very highly of you.
Right on, Kurt. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Kurt's a cool guy. We're both from Carbondale, and like I said, he spoke highly of you.
Yeah.
He recalled you singing A Change Gonna Come for Tupac at the hospital. Is that true?
It is. I went in the back, and his mother asked me to sing for him. I stood over, and that was one of his favorite songs, and I stood there and sung that, and a tear rolled out of his eye into his ear.
And this is while he was unconscious in a coma.
Yes, it was.
Took that one little bit of consciousness that he took after being in the hospital, and he came to for a little bit, looked around the room, and he knew he was there, and he was listening. And when they told him, he was on machines and stuff, when they told him that, that happened, this and that happened, and they had to take one of your lungs. And when he heard that, they said he just went, closed his eyes, and let go. He let go. He wasn't fighting to hold it no more. He let go. He just like, me with one lung ain't gonna work. I can't be Pac with a cane and this and that. It just wasn't how he operated, and it would have it would have took the victory of all the things that he's done and said. And I think he known that it would have weakened his statement. And his statement was real, and he knew that. And I think he settled for what happened. He let what happened happen. He didn't know if it was going to be Vegas, but he kind of was asking for that. He's running to it. He just wanted to rest. He couldn't rest. Pop was tired, man. He was tired of living without man. You could tell. He was running. He was running to be loved.
I was working with another group from Long Beach that I was kind of like do some work. And I kind of wanted to play their stuff to Suge once I had a few things on them. And I was working with them. And what happened was I had missed the entourage going to Vegas by going home to watch my son. I was a single parent at the time, and I went home to make sure my son had the babysitter because I was going to be gone for like a day and a half or whatever. And when I got home, I fell asleep. I told the secretary to call me when Suge and them got back to do the little entourage to drive down there. I dozed off, and the secretary didn't call me, so I missed the trip to go to Vegas. And so what I did was I drove to Long Beach the next day, got a group that I had been messing with, and we were going over some things. And this is weird. I'll tell you what's going on. I had this melody that I had been playing with. It's kind of pop, it's kind of R&B pop, it's just a slow song. And I had also been messing with that. I didn't know where the song was going, what it was headed to, or whatever it was. I just loved the chord structure of it or whatever, and I kept messing with it. I was messing with it for over a month. I had showed a few other producers there that, and I didn't know where I wanted to go with it, what it was going to talk about. And we looked up at the screen in the studio, and it was saying Tupac Shakur died, and the whole studio went in pandemonium. It was really only a few people there because they were already, most of the people were in Vegas. So the few girls that were there were running up and down the hall crying and whatever like that, and I didn't even know how to act. I was just leaning over in my chair, and all the other guys was patting on me. I mean, I'm sorry, man, what? And we couldn't really believe it. And it was like magic, Jesse. I went to the what we called the vault, where we kept our tracks at. Suge wouldn't let it. We got to a point where Suge wouldn't let us bring our songs out of the studio. People were getting them into the swap meets and stuff like that, and selling stuff. So he made it where you couldn't get out of the studio with whatever you worked on that day, whatever it was. So I went to the vault, got a DAT of the song that I had been messing with for a month. And when you know, it ended up being a song that I wrote for Tupac when he died. And I sung at the Death Row meeting when they all got back from Vegas. And when I sung the song, it wasn't a dry eye. I'm talking about Snoop, the Outlaws, Hammer, the group we had, Bugatti, so 4 girls for that Rage had brought here, 6 Feet Deep, Yo-Yo, everybody. It wasn't a dry eye in the place. And I sung that song, and now I've sung it at a few funerals. Just actually sung it last month and a half ago. My mom passed, and I had to sing it at that. So, yeah.
I hate to ask you this, man, but I got to wrap it up with this and one more. What was your reaction to hearing that he'd been shot again in Vegas? Did you think that he was going to pull through like the New York shooting?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, everybody did. When he first got shot, right? I started Mopreem, Shock G, DJ Fuse, he was like, we was all going down to Vegas, and everybody like, if he gonna make it, he got shot 5 times before, he gonna make it. So I guess the day when he passed away, I was actually contemplating on going to Vegas. So I dropped my kids off, whatever, so I'm driving somewhere and I parked, and then I had a radio come on, Shed So Many Tears came on, and it just hit me. I already knew. I was like, damn. And then, it just said Tupac Shakur has passed away, yada, yada, yada. And the thing was, his funeral was the next day. As a matter of fact, we didn't even know about the funeral. As a matter of fact, when he passed away, we went to KMEA, which is the biggest station in the Bay Area. We went to KMEL to, talk about Pac's life and everything. It was me, Big B, Deion Evans went, a few other people that work with Pac that went and everything. And what it was, I guess when Pac had the operation and he took his lung out, he was already brain dead. So his mother was making arrangements anyway. She already knew it was, that he wasn't going to pull through. Even though that he was alive, he was still brain dead. So she knew he wouldn't like that. So he passed away that Friday. The next day, they had a funeral. The only person I knew that was there was Mopreme. He went. So on Monday, we were all expecting to go to this funeral. It's a big funeral. So on Monday, I called Shock G up to ask him, what's up with the funeral. Yeah. He said, man, he already had it. I was like, huh? He was surprised. He didn't even know about it. It was so hush-hush, he didn't even know about it. I said, the one person I thought would know would be Shock G. So when I called him, he's like, nah, it's already done.
He was the best example of tenacity and drive, even though I think he made some really bad decisions, or he had, a lot of Darth Vaders around him. I think had he lived a little longer, in one of the interviews he said, in 6 months, this was probably a week or two before he passed, he said, in 6 months, no one's going to recognize me because I'm going to act like such an adult. In fact, I may get into politics because the politicians, the preachers in this country are the biggest crooks. So, people forget that he was 25 when he passed. And I think Quincy Jones aptly said it when he said that if I had died at 25, I would have just been known as a background musician in a band. If Malcolm X died at 25, he would have been known as a street hustler. So, had Pac lived a little longer, I think we would have seen so much more from him, not only in music, not only in film, but also in business. And, he had a desire to do a lot of charity work as well. I think he wanted to give a lot back, to his community. And, I think that is what's sorely missed in the African American community. And I think his mother's Panther background, the way he was raised, the family that he was raised in, he had a consciousness about community that most people, whether black or white, just don't have. So, he was an inspiration. It was the best thing and worst thing, one of the best worst things that ever happened to me. Best thing that he came into my life, and one of the worst things that he was taken out.